Tens of billions of planets out there are like Earth. Study finds. Ever have one of those days where you just wanna be alone? Maybe have the planet to yourself. Well, based on sheer numbers, there may be a planet just for you. Astron- Astronomers at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of Hawaii, using data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope, estimate there are tens of billions of Earth-sized, possibly habitable planets in our Milky Way galaxy. Given that there are just more than 7 billion of us on this planet, that means a planet for each of us with some spares for your picky neighbors, or a vacation planet or two for you, maybe. And the closest may be circling a star you can see if you look up into heaven tonight. When you look up at the thousands of stars in the night sky, the nearest sun-like star with an Earth-sized planet in its habitable zone is probably only 12 light years away and can be seen with the naked eye. That is amazing. UC Berkeley graduate student Eric Pettigrew, the leader of the team that analyzed data from the Kepler, said in a press release. To be sure, the astronomers haven't seen any of the planets themselves. They came to their conclusions like this. The Kepler telescope photographed 150,000 of the 300 billion stars in the Milky Way every 30 minutes for 4 years. It looked for when orbiting planets passed between the camera and the star, causing a slight change in brightness of that star. Analyzing the data, the astronomers say they found 3,000 planet candidates. The astronomers narrowed that number by focusing on just 42,000 stars like our Sun or a bit cooler. That brought the number of planets down to 603, but only 10 of those were about the size of Earth in the so-called Goldilocks zone, just the right distance from the star where temperatures are suitable for life as we know it. So how did I get a number of planets in the billions? By using a computer model with fake planets to test the validity of the algorithms used in the calculations. What we're doing is taking a census of extrasolar planets, but we can't knock on every door. Only after injecting these fake planets and measuring how many we actually found could we really pin down the number of real planets that we missed. Pettigrew said in the press release. Using the data, the astronomers calculated that 22% of stars in the Milky Way, similar to our Sun, have planets like Earth in their Goldilocks zone. As there are about 20 billion stars similar to the Sun in the galaxy, the possibilities add up quickly, more than one for each of us Earthlings. The researchers do caution, though, that despite being in the habitable zone, a planet could still not be right to host life. Some may have thick atmospheres, making it so hot at the surface that DNA-like molecules would not survive. Others may have rocky surface that could harbor liquid water suitable for living organisms. We don't know what range of planet types and their environments are suitable for life. Geoffrey Marcy, UC Berkeley professor of astronomy, said in a press release, but the study gives researchers a number to work with. The primary goal of the Kepler mission was to answer the question: when you look up in the night sky, what fraction of the stars that you see have Earth-sized planets at lukewarm temperatures so that water could not be frozen into ice or vaporized into steam, but remain a liquid? Because liquid water is now understood to be the prerequisite for life, Marcy said. Until now, no one knew exactly how common, potentially habitable planets were around Sun-like stars in the galaxy. The new study is published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and was discussed this week at the second Kepler Science Conference, being held at NASA's Ames Research Center in Moffett Field, California. Also at the gallery, scientists announced the Kepler's telescope has found 833 new candidate planets, including 10 that are of the right size and right distance from their stars to host life, adding to ones previously confirmed. That brings the official list to 3,538 planet candidates found using Kepler, according to a NASA press release. Of those, smaller Earth-sized planets are most common, NASA said. Next, that's about nothing to smile about. Asia's deadly addiction to battle quits. Editors know. CNN's On the Road series takes you to different countries, exploring the challenge and opportunities they face. In October, we visit Myanmar, focusing on the country's development and putting its transformation into a global context. Heavy users of betel quid reveal their addiction when they smile. The teeth are then a reddish black, dyed from years of chewing potent parcels of areca nuts and tobacco, wrapped in a lime-coated betel leaf. Some people, after they eat, they're drinking coffee or tea. Always after eating, I'm chewing the betel nuts. I like it, saying Miao Min San, a 28-year-old noodle seller at the market in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. Like tea or coffee, betel quids, or nuts, as they are often referred to, give users a lift, but unlike tea or coffee, they also give them oral cancer. Having one is okay, but the danger increases when you start having the second one. When you reach a certain point, people will get cancer, said Professor Yin Qing-kong, Vice President of Kaohsiung Medical University in Taiwan, who conducted some of the first studies into the link between betel quid and oral cancer in the 1990s. A betel quid is the name given to small parcels that typically contain areca nuts, wrapped in a betel leaf, coated with slaked lime. Some contain tobacco. Spices may be added for taste in different parts of Asia, including cardamom, saffron, cloves, and sweeteners, according to research compiled by the International Agency for Research on Cancer in its monograph Betel Quid and Areca Nut Chewing. Around 600 million people worldwide are thought to chew betel quids, making them the fourth most commonly used psychoactive substance after tobacco, alcohol, and caffeinated drinks. They are predominantly chewed in Asia, Where their use isn't limited to adults, you can see it in the research and on the teeth of some children. In Myanmar, quads are popular with drivers who use them to stay alert on the road. Yu Sing, 37, chews around 10 quads a day. He's a taxi driver and is stocking up at one of the many roadside stands in central Yangon. The tobacco is just like a drug, he says, so when I'm chewing the betel nut, I get a bit dizzy. He says he doesn't smoke cigarettes. Quits, he says, are better for me, though it's unclear whether he's referring to his health or the cheap cost of the addictive little parcels. A pack of 3 costs 100 Burmese kyat, around 10 US cents at least. That's how much seller Ko Fat 26 charged at his stall in central Yangon. He is quickly wrapping new parcels while Yusen waits. K That can't say how many parcels he makes a day, but in a couple of minutes he makes 6. He swiftly coats the leaves with lime before arranging them in rows and adding areca nuts and a sprinkle of tobacco. He flicks some more limes on before baking them, and adds another sprinkle of tobacco for good measure. Yusin smiles as he hands off his cash. His teeth fleck that familiar shade of red. The chewing of areca nuts dates back centuries, as far as the Bronze Age, according to a study of remains excavated at New Nep, Sai Ho Province in Vietnam, published in 2001. Researchers found that the teeth appear to be stained by betel quid. The practice has been around so long it's become an important part of cultural and religious rituals. And in some parts of Asia, that parcels are used as a herbal remedy for anything from the toothache to acne. Some also believe that had aphrodisiac properties. Scientific research has found that chewing betel quid leads to an increased risk of cancer, whether or not tobacco is included. Carcinogens derived from tobacco and the areca nuts were found in the saliva of people chewing the parcels, though it wasn't clear whether they were leaching from the tobacco or whether they were being produced during the chewing process. Cole thinks it's the latter. The leaves are fine. They will not cause cancer. Lime will not lead to cancer, but it may accelerate carcinogens to release. It's a hidden danger, Cole said. In some countries, authorities have launched awareness campaign, but health officials face up an uphill battle in convincing addicts that it's not worth the buzz. In Taiwan, Cole says, people are aware, but it's just hard to get rid of the addiction. Papua New Guinea recently introduced a ban on the sale and chewing for areca nuts in the capital port, Mersey, but that was mainly to rid the city of the unsightly red saliva users spit into the street when they chew. In Myanmar, the Consumer Protection Association, a non-governmental organization, has started trying to raise public awareness of the risks of betel quid. However, its message is about the dangers of pesticides on leaves. Long ago, betel leaves were used as a medicine, but nowadays betel leaves cause oral cancer because of the excessive use of pesticides and insecticides. The association chairman Bo Atkin told CNN, "It's a theory that's not supported by any scientific evidence," Cole said. "There's absolutely no relation between the two. Both areca nuts and leaves have very strong resistance to pests, so neither are usually used during the cultivation, he said. Earlier students showed pesticides may have a connection to lymph cancer or blood cancer, but never oral cancer, he added. Despite the evidence, neuroseller Mo-Min Sun has no plans to kick the habit. He says he needs his 10 parcels a day to stay awake during long shifts at his market stall, which started at 3 a.m. with a trip to the wholesaler and end at 8 p.m. when he dumps his unsold stock. I'm working the whole day. It's a very long day, so when I'm chewing the betel nut, I don't want to sleep, he said. Next is about the Holland Coast emergency meeting after French journalist abducted, killed in Mali. French President Francois Hollande called on an emergency meeting with Minister Sunday, a day after 2 French journalists were killed in northern Mali. Ghislain Dupont and Claude Vollant work for Radio France International, that were kidnapped Saturday morning after interviewing a Tuareg rebel near the northern town of Kindal, a local governor said, according to RFI sister network France Information. Both were kidnapped by 4 men in a Toyota, said government Adema Kamisoko of Kidal. Kidal was one of the strongholds of the Islamic militant Tuareg uprising last year that plunged Mali into chaos after a military-led coup. Following the coup, Tuareg rebels occupied the northern half of the country. As part of France's intervention this year to flush out militants in Mali, the French military secured the area around Kindal. The 2 reporters were abducted in front of the home of a member of the Tuareg Rebels National Movement of the Liberation of Azawad, RFI reported. The 2 journalists could be heard resisting their abduction, according to their driver, who was forced by the gunmen to lay on the ground, RFI said. Holland condemned the killings, calling them despicable. The kidnapping and deaths came the same week 4 French hostages were released. They were abducted in 2010 by a Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb in neighboring Niger. Next is about the hundreds of teachers accused of dancing with strippers at school retreat in Paraguay. A scandal erupted in Paraguay after hundreds of teachers were accused of dancing with strippers during an official retreat. The country's top education official has said she's investigating after a cell phone video showing teachers dancing with strippers was leaked to Paraguayan media, where headlines have described the event as an erupted party. The teachers had permission to miss class and participate in team-building activities at a retreat outside the country's capital of Asuncion. But according to an investigation by the Ministries of Education and Culture, they didn't just discuss lesson plans or teaching at the April retreat. A cell phone video provided to CNN affiliate Telefuturo shows shirtless male strippers dancing with female teachers at the event as onlookers cheer and music blares. Some 800 teachers attended the event, officials say. The concern is, education is an essential service. So what are our motive for suspending classes? Well, for a day of training, right? Apparently with an union license, the content should be tied to educational priorities. Education Minister Marta LaFuente said. The Education Ministry is investigating 79 school directors who participated in the retreat, which took place at a range about 25 kilometers, 15 miles outside the capital. According to some school officials, the strippers' performances were not part of the event's official program and had happened without the consent of the organizers. The president of the National Union of Directors of Public Institutions described the event as immoral and called for those responsible to be punished. First, the event organizers should be sanctioned, Union Director Miguel Marcos said, but officials, he said, should take the punishment a step further. Then, take them to a spiritual retreat, he said, and talk to them a bit about values. And it's about Red Star Line, the ship that saved Albert Einstein's life. The world's most famous scientist, with his iconic wild hair, crumpled suit, and pants peeking from breast pocket, poses not in a laboratory but on the deck of a ship. It's a candid image of Albert Einstein in his leisure time, taken on one of many trips aboard Red Star Line vessels between Europe and America in the 1930s. 3 years after this photograph was taken, the Nazis came into power in Einstein's homeland Germany, and he traveled to U.S. on one of these huge passenger steamers for good, in a journey that may well have saved the Jewish physicist's life. The Nobel Prize-winning scientist was one of the 2.5 million people who sailed across the Atlantic with the boat company between 1873 and 1934, a quarter of them Jewish. Now their remarkable stories, many escaping persecutions in Europe and investing their savings in a better life in the New World, have been immortalized in a new $25 million Red Star Line museum in Antwerp, Belgium. The most important artifact we're showing is the actual building. It was the control center for all third-class passengers, said museum coordinator Lou Burnham of the renovated red brick warehouses on the Rhine Quay, which until now had been left to rot. Inside, we have a collection of ship models, stories, pictures, letters, even a Belgian waffle iron, and the piano of composer Irving Berlin. It shows something about what was important to people of the time. Along with Einstein and Irving Berlin, the composers of famous songs White Christmas and There's No Business Like Show Business, was another passenger who fled Europe to forge a successful career in the U.S. Lawyer, author, and prominent feminist Sonia Pressman Fuentes was just 5 years old when her family traveled from Antwerp to New York in 1934. Today, she is believed to be one of just 5 surviving Red Star Line passengers and the only who attended the museum's opening last month. The daughter of Jewish Polish clothing merchant living in Berlin. 85-year-old Buttes said she would have died at the hands of the Nazis if her family hadn't caught the SS Westerland that fateful day. "It was a lifesaver, absolutely," said the mother of one, adding that the Antwerp authorities had planned to deport the family before they boarded the ship. There's no question of the role the Red Star Line played in the lives of people who escaped the Holocaust. While Fuentes was too young to remember the 10-day journey across the Atlantic, her 80-year-old brother, Herman, who had convinced the family to join him in Antwerp, kept a diary of the voyage, copies of which now appear in the museum. "My brother wrote that we were seasick the whole time," says Fuentes, and indeed, life on the ships was cramped and dreary for third-class passengers. In the early years, third-class passengers were in large, communal cabins without water or light. They could go outside for some air once a day, said Verheyen. But towards the end, it got a lot better and they started investing in small dormitories with 6 people in a room. First class, however, was more like a luxury hotel with huge ballrooms for dancing. With a third-class ticket valued at around $1,300 in today's money, a laborer would have had to work 75 days to cover the cost. Third-class passengers also had to undergo rigorous health checks before boarding. If anyone refused entry at Ellis Island Immigration Center in New York sent back at the expense of the shipping line. Passengers would take hour-long showers with hot vinegar and benzene, cleaning them of lice while their luggage was disinfected in large steam sterilizing machines. Founded by Antwerp and Philadelphia shipbrokers almost 150 years ago, the Red Star Line heralded a golden era for transatlantic ocean travel. And during its heyday, 2 vessels left for North America each week. People left Europe for a variety of reasons. Poverty, the rise of industrialism meant a lot of small family business went bankrupt. Political or racial persecution, and adventurers with small capital who had heard about the prosperity on the other side of the ocean, said Verheyen. For Fuentes, the most emotional moment in her return to Antwerp was standing at the very same water's edge where her family set sail 80 years ago. "If it wasn't for that journey, I wouldn't have had a life or a daughter," she said. "My brother wouldn't have had children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. My parents wouldn't have had lives. None of that would have happened if we hadn't traveled on the Red Star Line." And next is about 5 things you should know about New York's new mayor. Bill de Blasio will be the first Democratic mayor in New York City in 2 decades, easily defeating Republican Joe Lhota by running a campaign that rejected the politics of his predecessor, Michael Bloomberg. Known for its liberal politics, New York City has not elected a Democrat in the last 5 mayoral elections, with Bloomberg serving the 3 terms and Rudolph Giuliani before him serving 2. De Blasio, who held around a 40-point lead in almost every survey since the start of the general election in mid-September, ended last streak Tuesday. He ran a campaign with a progressive agenda, saying that Bloomberg favored the wealthy Manhattan elite and unfairly targeted minorities with the unpopular stop and frisk police policy. Here are 5 things to know about the next mayor of New York City. First, he was a primary underdog. De Blasio was the long-shot candidate for the Democrats, starting the primary campaign with just 10% of his party's support in polls, before going on to win the primary. He was surged past former Rep. Anthony Weiner, who lost his lead when his campaign imploded after his second sexting scandal, to move neck and neck with Bloomberg favorite Christian Quinn, defeating her on primary day when he secured more than 40% of the vote and avoided a runoff. Second, is he qualified to run New York City? Until recently, De Blasio was a relative unknown in New York City politics. He is the city's current public advocate, a position that is sort of a watchdog for the people. Before that, he ran Hillary Clinton's first U.S. Senate campaign. His lack of time in the spotlight has critics questioning whether with a small staff and a thin resume he's up to running the Big Apple and the $17 billion budget that goes along with it. De Blasio brushes off his critics by saying that he has heard the criticisms many times during his 25-year public life in New York City. Third, the family effect. De Blasio introduced himself and his biracial family by featuring them prominently in the commercials and campaign events. Many political watchers say to his advantage. His 15-year-old son, Dante, has his own campaign ad speaking directly into the camera, highlighting his father's views, including his stance against the unpopular NYPD stop and frisk policy. His wife, Sherilyn McCray, is front and center as his chief strategist and once identified herself as a lesbian before marrying De Blasio. Fourth, the anti-Bloomberg. De Blasio calls himself the unapologetically progressive alternative to the Bloomberg era, saying that the current mayor's policies favor the rich. He has repeatedly used phrases such as income inequality and a tale of two cities to describe New York City under Bloomberg. De Blasio cites that the city's 21% poverty rate as proof of this, and he campaigned on closing the gap by pushing real estate developers to build or preserve 200,000 affordable homes and creating a universal pre-K program for the poor, founded by raising taxes on those who make $500,000 or more. The anti-Bloomberg wealth inequality message resonate particularly well with minority and low-income voters. De Blasio had a much larger advantage over Lota among Black and Latino voters compared to white voters. 5. Stop and frisk. One of the most controversial issues in the race was the stop and frisk policy that allows New York police to search people in high crime areas. De Blasio said that this policy unfairly targets poor and minority neighborhoods and has voted to end the policy, calling it racist, with felony crime down 75% under the Giuliani and Bloomberg administrations. Lota called de Blasio's view on public safety reckless and vowed to keep the law in effect if he was elected. De Blasio responded by saying that the city can be safer if it takes the core of what has been built and creates a better relationship between police and communities.